brand new month and it's a brand new bingo. So make sure you get your card ready. You understand the instructions on the back of your card and you're ready to watch this video. Good luck.
An accidental is any flat or sharp or natural sign. Anything telling you to play something different than what is normal for the song. This note is on the top line of the bass clef, which means it's an A. Three is the value of any dotted half note or dotted half rest. The second line up in the bass clef is always going to be a B. This counts as an A in the treble clef or the bass clef. Pianissimo means really quiet, and it usually has two P's in a row. One P is quiet, two P's is pianissimo, really quiet. 8 VA means you're supposed to play at 1 octave or 8 notes higher. This is a quarter rest and it's worth 1. This counts as a D in the treble or the bass clef. That's a quarter note, which is worth 1. The spaces of the bass clef spell A-C-E, ace, and this is on the very bottom one, so it's the A of ace. There's the granddaddy of them all, Louis Armstrong. Forte means play it loudly. This is the first ledger line below the treble clef, which makes it the all-important middle C. Tenuto means to hold the note for the full value, maybe a little bit longer. The second line up in the treble clef is always going to be a G. This whole note is worth 4 beats. If two of the same notes have a swoopy line over or below them, that means they're tied together. You're only supposed to play the first one and just hold it out through the second one. This is a bass clef sign, also known as an F clef. It is the graph for all of the lower notes. Since the spaces of the treble clef spell the word face, F-A-C-E, this one is on the bottom, which makes it the F of face. A repeat sign is 2 dots stacked on top of each other that tell you to go back and play it all again. The second space up on the treble clef is an A because all the spaces spell the word face, F-A-C-E. Accelerando means to gradually get faster. This counts as an E in the treble clef or the bass clef. That is the incredible jazz pianist Bill Evans. The one, the only Mr. Beethoven. Mezzo forte means kinda loud, because mezzo means kinda and forte means loud. This is on the first little ledger line above the bass clef, which means this is middle C. The third space up on the bass clef is always going to be an E because the spaces spell the word ace. A-C-E. This is the third one. It's an E. Since the spaces of the bass clef spell the word ace, A-C-E, this is the second one up, which means it's the C of ace. It kind of looks like a B, but it's actually a flat sign, and it means to play the note slightly lower. This rest only has one notch or one flag on it, which means that it's an eighth rest worth 1/2. Staccato is a dot above or below a note, and it just tells you that you're supposed to disconnect that note from the other ones around. Don't hold it out a long time. The third line up on the bass clef is always going to be a D. The fourth line on the treble clef is always going to be a D. Any quarter note or quarter rest is worth 1 beat. Anytime we have the treble clef and bass clef showing up together, it's called the grand staff. The bass clef is the graph for all the lower notes. A bar line is an up and down, a vertical line that separates measures. Four time is the time signature where we can have up to 4 quarter notes in each measure. You get to mark it off if you have an F in the bass clef or the treble clef. The bottom line on the bass clef is always going to be a G. This note is on the space above the treble clef, making it a G. A repetition is any part of a song or solo where you're just repeating some little group of notes. That rest looks like an upside down hat, which means it's a whole rest, worth 4. This counts if you've got a C in the treble clef or in the bass clef. The bottom line on the treble clef is always going to be an E. This dotted quarter rest is worth 1.5 beats. An accent looks like a little V on its side above or below a note, and it just means to punch that one a little bit harder, make it a little bit louder. This is the great, the amazing Bach. This is the great composer, Scott Joplin, sometimes classified as a classical composer, but usually classified as a jazz composer. That note is on a space below the treble clef, which makes it a D. The spaces of the treble clef spell the word face, F-A-C-E, and this is the third one up, so it is the C. This half note is worth 2 beats. BPM stands for beats per minute, and it's the tempo marking for any metronome. The time signature is what tells us how many beats are in each measure and what kind of note we're counting with. Mezzo piano means kinda softly because mezzo means kinda and piano means softly. That's an eighth note, which is worth 1/2.
A decrescendo looks like a sideways V going from the big end to the little end, showing you that you should have a lot of sound going to a little sound.
It looks like fine, but it's pronounced fine, and it means it's the end, the finish. Eight VB means you're supposed to play that section 1 octave or 8 notes lower. This half note is worth 2 beats. The third line up on the treble clef is always a B. This note is on the space above the bass clef. It's 1 note below middle C, which means this is B. This counts as a B in the treble or the bass clef. That's a quarter note, which is worth 1. A measure is just a chunk of beats within a song. Most songs have at least 8 or more measures. Some of them have up to like hundreds of measures. Since forte means loudly, fortissimo means really loudly. It's usually indicated with 2 F's next to each other. An accidental.
All that we're calling for bingo today, so hopefully you've got a filled out card. Make sure that you post that right away because the first people who post them get the most prizes. See you next time.